Jasmine. Hi, Mia. Hi, CJ. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Shout out to Jasmine. Oops. Oh, the paper keeps moving. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to CJ. Shout out to Celie. Shout out to Sari. Shout out to Vanessa. Let's see. Welcome everyone. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Bella. Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate your support. Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Sandy. Shout out to Pritam. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Matthias. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Isaiah. Shout out to Isla. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Zyra. Shout out to Darla. Shout out to Sasha. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Frankie. Shout out to Satish Muth. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cheer Queen. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Arianellis. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Carlo. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Yasmin. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Aubrey. Thank you, Aubrey. Shout out to Coben. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Katya. Thank you. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Edith. Shout out to Kaz. Shout out to Eve. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to Cathalia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Paloma. Shout out to Mora. Shout out to Mika or Micah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Hazel. Shout out to Frida. Shout out to Roma. Shout out to Hayam. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Maham. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Lazhi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Prince. Shout out to Vihan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Azur. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Maham. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Cora. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kantu. Shout out to Gervier. Shout out to Alexa. Shout out to Francesca. Shout out to Gigi. Shout out to Azara. Shout out to Trini. Shout out to Bruna. Shout out to Aislinn. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Pina. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Alina. Shout out to Zuriel. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Dana or Donna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Juno. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Kingsley. Shout out to Koi. Shout out to Navy. Shout out to Kamani. Shout out to Anna Hera. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ayush. Shout out to Hadassah. Shout out to Nonso. Shout out to Sailor. Shout out to Hiranya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Harmony. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Varna. Shout out to Nima. Shout out to Brooke. Shout out to Katori. Shout out to Dinu. Shout out to Chinonsu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. On to the next page. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Mogan. Shout out to Kyla. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Adela. Shout out to Cloda. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shay. Shout out to Natheo. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Oops. Shout out to Amara. Shout out to Ange. Shout out to Manuela. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Chanel. Shout out to Manuela, I got you. Shout out to Shaquille. Shout out to Tirsa. Shout out to Landon. Shout out to Juju. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Zamaria. Shout out to Potito. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Salome. Oops. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Yara. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Risha or Resha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Corey. Shout out to Hadassah. Shout out to Timmy Cute. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Zaya or Zia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Manav. Shout out to Ali. Shout out to Tia. Shout out to Retley. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Marisol. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Mello. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Isaiah. Shout out to Ruben. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Navy. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Denise. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Brittany. Shout out to Janelle. Shout out to Angeli. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Arabella. Shout out to Princess. Shout out to Betty. Shout out to Adelis. Shout out to Noelle. Shout out to Minka. Shout out to Marwa. Shout out to Naima. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Jesus. Shout out to Jazzy. Shout out to Kat. Shout out to Siavash. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Monique. Shout out to Luna. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Joyce. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Yesha. Shout out to Ria. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Akiro. Shout out to Ryan. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Karina. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Uma. Shout out to Ishan. Shout out to Landon. Shout out to Hayden. Shout out to Zishan. Shout out to Salma. Shout out to Jarena. Shout out to Landon. Shout out to Gabriel. Shout out to Ryan. Oh, I got Ryan. Where's Ryan? I got you. Shout out to Carrie. Shout out to Ziriah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Thais. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Navy. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Anandi. Thank you for your support. Shout out to Zed. Shout out to... Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to... Thank you, you too. Have a great day. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Shout out to Asha. Shout out to Lux. Shout out to Johanna. Shout out to Harry. Shout out to Kuntal. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Denise. Shout out to Lamar. Shout out to Shaylee. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to... Happy birthday, Shaylee. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Gabriel. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Joanna. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Danielle. Shout out to Jill. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Hayden. Shout out to Moso. Shout out to Alina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Musarat. Leave a like if you enjoyed the live stream. Merry Christmas, Angel. Thank you. Shout out to Tessa. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Eleanor. Merry Christmas, Eleanor. Shout out to Aitana. If I haven't gotten to you, please write your name again. The chat is going a little bit fast. Shout out to Nikat. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Cindy. Shout out to Ryland. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to Hanana. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Helen. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Rui. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Denise. Merry Christmas. Shout out to Maddie. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live streams. Shout out to Zuriel. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Annika. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Iready. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Arabella. Adeline, I think I'll live stream on Christmas, probably around the same time as this. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Elliot. Shout out to Matthew, I got you. Shout out to Muham. Excuse me. Shout out to Raphael. Shout out to Rumi. Shout out to Sultan. Shout out to Dayani. Shout out to Ace. Shout out to... My name's Ness, and here's my YouTube channel, NessDIYcorner. I do live streams, and I also post other content that I hope you can check out and support. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to is it Shaduk? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Helena. Shout out to Vishal. Shout out to Aurora. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Sonia. Shout out to Salo. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Kuntal, I did. Right here, Ness. Shout out to Pearl. I got you, Salo. Shout out to Pearl. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Morena. Shout out to Adira. Shout out to Jungkook. Did I spell that right? Oh yeah. Shout out to Abigail. Happy early birthday. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Ash. Shout out to Adela. Was it Adela? Oh yeah, Adela. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Emma. Happy birthday, Emma. Shout out to Dua. Shout out to Jisung. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Akshara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Lucia. Shout out to Veda. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to McKinley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Stanley. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Tessa. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Charlene. Shout out to Sha Coco. Shout out to Tegan. Oops. Shout out to Rana. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to Pau. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Mira. Shout out to Lucas. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. How's everyone doing? Anyone celebrating holidays? Anyone on holiday break? Thank you for being here. Shout out to Andy. It's Christmas Eve for some of us. Shout out to Andon. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Kobe. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Tuba. Shout out to Grayson. Write your name if I haven't gotten to you. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Hamdan. Shout out to Chaya. Shout out to Jenalise. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Hanzala Lolo. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Marsha. Shout out to Parisa. Shout out to Raylan. Shout out to Anderson. Shout out to Chanel. Shout out to Nindy. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Bristol. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Shaya or Chaya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aranza. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Martina. Shout out to Kendrick. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Swarnima. Shout out to Jolie. Did I spell your name correctly? Shout out to Anila. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jake. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Erica. Whoops, Erica. Write your name again if I haven't gotten to you. Shout out to Jackson. Oops, how was Jackson? Jackson. Shout out to Ishavi. Shout out to Pamela. Shout out to Jaina. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Val. Shout out to Aaliyah. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Bianca. Shout out to Akshira. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Amelia. Excuse me, sorry. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ella. Thank you. Shout out to Dr. Dua. Shout out to Zephyr. Shout out to Zach. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Everly. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Christopher. Shout out to McKinley. Shout out to Gage. Shout out to Mehak. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to Adrian. Shout out to Avni. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Francie. Shout out to Avion. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Adira. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Nala. Shout out to Edith. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Denver. Shout out to Graciela. Shout out to Jacoby. Shout out to Grayson. Shout out to Elise. Shout out to Amrit. Shout out to Presley. Oh no, Paisley, sorry. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Steffi. Shout out to Henry. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe if you want to support my channel. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Dwayne. Shout out to Sarai. Or Sarai. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bruna. Shout out to, excuse me, shout out to Indy. Shout out to Cicely. Shout out to Frankie. Shout out to Gloria. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Amaris. Shout out to Fertilin. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Giselle. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Kale. Oh no, Callie. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Kayuri. Shout out to Khalid. Shout out to Elsie. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Shafi. Shout out to Iverna. Shout out to Melania. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. On to the next page. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out and support. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to write your name out. And thank you for your patience. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to, is it Archie? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Probs. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Elsa. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Nafisa. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Ellie Lane. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rosalie. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Jackie. Shout out to Pia. Shout out to Anakin. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to Joella. Shout out to Lemmy. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Darlene. Shout out to Emily. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Christy. Shout out to Sabrina. Shout out to Nehemiah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Symphony. Shout out to Carolyn. Shout out to Jedi. Shout out to Shayla. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Analia. Anila, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Sasha. You're welcome, Naraya. I'm sorry for your loss. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Ev. Shout out to Mazrul. Mazrur, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Gilberto. Whoops, I forgot the L. There we go. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Ada. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to, is it Juana? Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Bethany. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Caroline. Shout out to Staley. Shout out to Eslin. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Amari. Shout out to Annabelle. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Annie. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to KK. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Anissa. Shout out to Zia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Isaac. Shout out to Thaisa. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mar. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Tucker. Shout out to Clea. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to Zari. Shout out to Kendall. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Arda. Shout out to Yana. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Ada. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Will. Shout out to Rayan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sharaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Zariah. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Gus. Shout out to Zariah, I got you. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Tina. Shout out to Bayut. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to John. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Ivana. Shout out to Zariah. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. On to the next page. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Tomboy. Shout out to Horse Girl. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Leon. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rubina. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Lena. Shout out to Narmin. Shout out to Wadat. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ellie Ray. Shout out to Alana. Thank you, Ellie Ray, for subscribing. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to Cam. Shout out to Rinley. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Connie. Shout out to Lacey. Shout out to Cameron. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Aisha. Thank you for your support. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Cowgirl. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Veronica. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Penelope. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to, is it Jilly? Like this. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to, I'm so sorry if you feel like I'm skipping you. I'm not. The live stream sometimes goes really fast and I write slow. So I'm so sorry. Shout out to Manha. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Manha. Shout out to Shazrat. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Tessa. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to Shaylee. Shout out to, is it Rasika? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Varlea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Ione. Shout out to Along. Shout out to Ali. Shout out to Hukana. Shout out to Sally. Shout out to is it Carly? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ivana. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Phoenix. Shout out to Shell. Shout out to Coraline. Shout out to Gannon. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to CJ. Shout out to Max. Shout out to Renz. Shout out to Shauna. Shout out to Mabel. Shout out to Manel. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Ariani. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Jayla. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Bristol. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Skyla. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Manushi. Shout out to Ajanari. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Nevea. Shout out to Kyle. Shout out to Adrian. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Ada or Ada. Shout out to Nana. Shout out to Aurora. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Kyra. Shout out to Janelle. Shout out to oh, I got Kyra. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to Lakin. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. On to the next page. Like and subscribe. Subscribe if you want to support my channel. I do live streams and I also do other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to write your name. And thank you for your patience. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Rory. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Mabel. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Yanni. Shout out to Yuri. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Mary. Shout out to Renika. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Gracelyn. Shout out to Mallory. Shout out to Giselle. Shout out to Ace. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Miriam. Shout out to Hawa. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lindsay. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Ziron. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Kyrie. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Everly. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Chase. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Alyssa. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Chase. Oh, I got Chase right here. Shout out to Laura, I got you. Shout out to Kylie, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Soma. Leave a like if you're enjoying. Shout out to Ozzy. Shout out to Ronaldo. Give me 1 second. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Evelyn. Shout out to Alyssa. Shout out to Jameer. Shout out to Joshua. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Andrea. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? Shout out to Lisa. Sorry. Shout out to Lisa. Shout out to Zeke. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to, oh, Andrea, I hope you feel better. Shout out to Dave. I'm sorry to hear that. Shout out to John. Shout out to, I'm so sorry, Andrea. Sorry for your loss. Shout out to Abrish. Shout out to Amiva. Shout out to Kara. Shout out to Zelaya. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Titus. Shout out to Yuki. Song, I'm doing well. How about you? Thank you for asking. Shout out to Saj Hiena. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Selena. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Janella. Shout out to Ariana. Happy birthday. Shout out to Mari Yuri. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Bianca. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Yunjin. Shout out to Jacob. Shout out to Nevea. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Roxy. Shout out to Lakoa. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Romina. Shout out to Shruti. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Hazel. Shout out to April. Shout out to Tiana. Shout out to these people. Should I do one more page? Okay, one more page. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Okay. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to write your name. All right. Shout out to Nevea. Happy birthday. Shout out to Lennox. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Kyrie. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Lena. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Brooke. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Bubbles. Shout out to Moon. Shout out to Ava. Happy early birthday, Ava. Shout out to Banu. Shout out to Davina. Shout out to Veda. Shout out to Simrik. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shrinu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to CJ. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Tegan. Shout out to Haley. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 180 likes. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Cicely. Shout out to Albertine. Shout out to Bianca. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Selena. Shout out to Ronaldo. Shout out to Tay. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Akithana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Ziye. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Sophia. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Give me like 30 seconds. I'm gonna drink some water. Shout out to Jaina. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Shayla. Shout out to, was it Annika? Can you write your name again? I'm sorry. Shout out to Carl. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Lily. Oh, I just got Lily. Shout out to Mary. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Bob. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Ariana. Happy birthday. Shout out to Malika. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Sabita. Shout out to Joey. Shout out to Jeff. Shout out to Liv. Shout out to Saida. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Zara. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Manon. Shout out to Sally. Shout out to Ira. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Jada. Shout out to Kay. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Alexa. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Neela, or Nyla, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to B. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Tiana. Shout out to Christina. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Syra. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lupanana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shania. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Cara. Shout out to Asa. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. I do live streams every day around this time. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Take care. Happy holidays. Thank you for taking the time to write your name. Bye. Have a great day or great night. Take care.